She left her husband because he was poor, but she never imagined he would become a rich duke. Before we begin this beautiful period romance story, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I love knowing where you're joining me from. Amelia woke to the sound of rain on the cottage roof and the faint clang of metal from the distant forge. For a moment, she lay still, listening, feeling the warmth of the blanket and the chill of the air on her face. Liam shifted beside her, already half awake. "You hear that?" he murmured. "Rain again. Old McCrae will complain that it rusts his tools and ruins his temper." She smiled faintly. "I think his temper was ruined long before the rain." Liam laughed, low and soft, and rolled to face her. His hair was a dark, unruly mess, his jaw rough with stubble. He looked tired, but his eyes always were kind. "I have to be at the forge early," he said. "If I finish the ploughshare, McCrae might pay me extra this week. We could buy sugar for your tea." "Sugar," she repeated, trying to make it sound like a small thing. "That would be a luxury indeed." He brushed a strand of hair from her face. "I know it is not the life you dreamed of, Amelia, but it will not always be like this. One day, I will have my own forge, our own little shop. You will see." She turned away before he could see the shadow in her eyes. "One day," she said quietly. "Yes, of course." When he rose and dressed, the room grew colder. The cottage was neat but bare. A small table, 2 chairs, a chest, the narrow bed they shared. The fire in the hearth had gone out in the night. There was barely enough coal left for the day. Liam wrapped his scarf around his neck and reached for his coat, the fabric worn at the elbows. "I will ask Mrs. Campbell if she has more work for you," he said. "Perhaps sewing or mending linen. She always praises your stitches." "Mrs. Campbell praises everything," Amelia replied. "It is easy to be generous when one has more than enough." He paused. "I know we have little, but I am trying, Amelia." She closed her eyes briefly. "I know you are." He stepped close and kissed her forehead. "I will make it better. I promise you." Then he was gone, and the door closed on a gust of damp air, leaving her alone with the silence and the empty grate. She dressed slowly, smoothing her worn gown over her hips. She had mended the hem 3 times already, and the color had faded from a deep blue to something uncertain. Her hands lingered on the plain fabric. It was not ugly, only ordinary, utterly ordinary. Outside, the village was waking. Smoke rose from chimneys, and the muddy street was busy with carts and boots. Amelia pulled her shawl tighter and walked toward the market, nodding to those she passed. Some smiled back. Others gave polite, distant looks, as if remembering that she had once been Amelia Fraser, the girl with the fine posture and better prospects, and now was Amelia McGregor, who kept house for a blacksmith's apprentice and counted pennies for bread. At the bakery, Mrs. Fraser, her cousin by marriage, beckoned her closer. "Amelia, child, you look pale. Are you well?" "I am well enough," Amelia answered. "Just tired." Her cousin lowered her voice. "Tired of counting coals, I imagine. Your father had such hopes for you. He always said you would marry above yourself." "I did marry above myself," Amelia said sharply. "Liam is better than most men I know." Mrs. Fraser lifted her brows. "I meant in position, not in character, though I am sure he is perfectly respectable. How much bread can you afford today?" "Half a loaf," Amelia said, her face heating. "Until Liam is paid." Her cousin sighed but took the coins without comment. "There is to be a small gathering at the McKinnons this afternoon," she said. "Lady visitors from Inverness. You should come. It is good for a young woman to be seen." Amelia hesitated. "I have nothing fit to wear." "Nonsense. A pretty face and good manners are fit anywhere. Besides, Malcolm Lennox will be there. You remember Mr. Lennox? Deals in wool and whiskey. Very successful, very generous." Amelia remembered him. Tall, neatly dressed, with easy conversation and a habit of looking at people as though assessing their value. He had come through the village a few months before and had praised her singing voice at a church supper. "I am a married woman," she said quietly. "I know that," Mrs. Fraser replied, "but there is no harm in polite acquaintance. And it might remind certain people," she added delicately, "that you were not born for smoke and soot." Amelia walked home with the half-loaf in her hands, and the words echoing in her mind. Not born for smoke and soot. Her father's voice, her aunt's voice, the whispers when she had chosen Liam. At midday, she tidied the cottage, swept the floor, and set a pot of thin soup to cook. She folded Liam's spare shirt and set it on the chair. Then she stared at her reflection in the small, slightly clouded mirror. There were faint lines at the corners of her eyes, though she was only 24. Worry had drawn them, not age. The invitation to the McKinnons tugged at her. It was foolish to go, she would feel out of place. Yet some stubborn part of her refused to stay shut away in the cottage all day. "I will only go for an hour," she told herself. "There is no harm in that, none at all." She chose her best gown, the faded blue with the neat stitches at the hem, and brushed her hair until it shone. She pinned it up with care, adding a simple ribbon she had kept from her girlhood. It looked almost fine, if one did not look too closely. The McKinnon house sat on a small rise at the edge of the village, larger than most, with a tidy garden and a front door that had been painted recently. Amelia's shoes were damp from the mud by the time she reached it. She wiped them carefully before stepping inside. The parlor was warm, with a fire burning and voices already rising in gentle conversation. Several ladies in more fashionable gowns sat in a circle, teacups in hand. "Mrs. McKinnon greeted Amelia with a little start, then a smile. "Mrs. McGregor, how good of you to come. Thank you for inviting me," Amelia said, trying not to notice the way two of the women exchanged a glance at the name. They found a seat for her, slightly apart from the others. A maid brought her tea in a cup with a small chip at the rim. She held it carefully, listening as the others spoke of Edinburgh, of fabrics, of a concert someone had heard last season. Then Malcolm Lennox arrived. He entered with a light step and a courteous bow to the room. His coat was well cut, his cravat neatly tied, his boots polished. He greeted Mrs. McKinnon, then the guests, then turned and saw Amelia. "Mrs. McGregor," he said, with a warmth that felt almost like a hand on her cheek. "What a pleasure to see you again." "Mr. Lennox," she replied, hoping her voice did not betray her unease. "You are kind to remember me." "I remember every pleasing voice," he said, "and every face that lights a room." One of the ladies laughed softly. "Careful, Mr. Lennox, compliments are dangerous things." "Not when they are true," he answered easily. "May I sit here, Mrs. McGregor?" She could scarcely refuse without seeming rude. "Of course." He took the chair nearest hers and began to speak of his travels. He told stories of Glasgow, of ships in the harbour, of fashionable streets where ladies in silk walked past shop windows full of wonders. The other women listened with bright, eager faces. Amelia listened too, unable not to imagine herself in one of those streets, in a gown that had never seen a needle of mending. "You must miss the city when you are here," one woman said. Malcolm smiled. "There is a charm in the country that the city cannot imitate. Simplicity has its own beauty. Still, I confess, I find it difficult to imagine certain ladies," his gaze flicked to Amelia, "remaining content with so small a circle forever." Her cheeks warmed. "Contentment is a matter of the heart," she said, "not of streets or shop windows." "Is it?" he asked quietly. "Perhaps. Yet the heart, like the body, needs shelter, comfort, a measure of safety. Do you not think so?" She did not answer at once. The conversation drifted on, but his words stayed, tiny hooks in her thoughts. Later, when the tea things were cleared and the ladies moved to the piano, Amelia rose to leave. "You are not going so soon," Malcolm said, appearing at her side. "I must return home," she answered. "My husband will expect his supper." "Ah," he said. "Duty calls us all, does it not?" There was no mockery in his voice, only gentle understanding. That made it worse. He accompanied her to the door. On the threshold, with the sound of music faint behind them, he spoke again. "Forgive me if I am presumptuous, Mrs. McGregor, but I cannot help feeling that you are somewhat misplaced." Her chin lifted. "Misplaced? You have grace, wit, a mind quick enough to converse in any drawing room, and yet," he glanced toward the village street, "life has hemmed you in very tightly. It seems a waste. My life is my choice, Mr. Lennox." "Is it still?" he asked. "Or was that choice made by a younger self who knew less of the world?" The question struck deeper than she wished to admit. She swallowed. "I am a married woman." "I know," he said softly. "I would not insult you by suggesting you forget it, but if you ever wish to consider other possibilities, more suitable employment perhaps, or a different place to live, There are ways such things can be arranged. With propriety, with care. And with whose help? She asked, though she already knew. With mine, he said simply. If you ever desire it. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still heavy. She stepped out under it, her heart heavier still. When she reached the village square, she stopped at the milliner's window, drawn by habit. 2 young women stood there already, their backs to her. "Did you see her gown?" one murmured. "That blue one. It has been turned and turned again. Poor thing. She married for love, they say," the other replied. "It does not seem to have bought her much." They laughed, not cruelly, but with that careless amusement that cuts more deeply than malice. Amelia turned away before they noticed her. At home, the cottage felt smaller than ever. The fire sputtered weakly. She set the bread on the table, stirred the soup, and tried to push the afternoon from her mind. Yet Malcolm's voice returned, mixing with her cousins, with the milliner's girls. Not born for smoke and soot. Was it wrong to want more than this? Was it ingratitude to wish for a life where she need not count every crumb and pray that Liam's boots did not wear through before winter's end? The door opened, and Liam stepped in, carrying the smell of smoke and metal. His cheeks were reddened by the wind, his hands blackened. "Amelia," he said with a smile. "You look tired. Have you been out?" "Yes," she said, ladling soup into bowls. "Mrs. McKinnon invited me for tea." "Tea," he repeated, pleased. "That is good. You should not hide here like a hermit. Did you enjoy yourself?" "In a fashion." He sat at the table, rubbing his hands together. "McCrae says business may improve in the spring. If it does, he might take me on as a partner one day. Imagine that. McCrae and McGregor. It would not be grand, but it would be ours." "Ours," she echoed. "In this village. Forever." He looked up, surprised by her tone. "Where else should it be?" She set the bowl down a little harder than she intended. "You have never thought of living anywhere else? Doing anything else?" "With what money?" he asked, bewildered. "I have my trade. It is honest work. It feeds us." "Barely," she said. He stared at her. "Have I failed to provide? Have you gone hungry?" She hesitated. "No, not hungry. Only limited." "Limited?" he repeated slowly. She sat across from him, her hands clenched in her lap. "Liam, I spent the afternoon in a room where women spoke of music and books and places they had seen. Their lives are larger, and I sat there wishing I did not have to worry whether my gown would split if I moved too quickly." "You are ashamed of the gown?" he asked. "I am ashamed of depending on your promises of one day," she burst out. "One day we will have more. One day I will not have to pretend I do not notice the cracks in the plates or the drafts in the walls. One day we will not be a joke to those who remember who I used to be." His face went still. "Who you used to be," he repeated. "And who are you now, Amelia?" She swallowed hard. "A woman who made a foolish choice, perhaps." Silence fell between them like a dropped stone. "You speak as if I have forced you into a prison," he said quietly. "I thought we chose this together. I thought we chose each other." "I chose you when I was 18, she said, her voice shaking. "I thought love would be enough. I did not understand what it meant to be judged every time I step into the street, to feel eyes on my dress, my hands, my home, to know that I could have had more if I had only waited." Liam's brow furrowed. "More what? More money? More fine words from men who sleep soundly on feather mattresses while others wake before dawn to earn their bread? More security," she said, "more respect." He leaned forward. "Respect from whom? The same people who laughed when we married? The same ones who call me the blacksmith's boy even now? Their respect is worth nothing." "Easy for you to say," she replied bitterly. "You are a man, you have a trade, a place. I am judged entirely by whose arm I take, whose name I carry, and I carry the name of a man who cannot lift me out of this." His jaw tightened. "So that is what I am to you? A weight around your neck." "I did not say that. You did not need to." She rose, unable to sit still. "I am tired, Liam. Tired of patching and pretending. Tired of turning my eyes away when someone mentions what I might have become. Tired of believing that one day will arrive, when every day looks exactly like the last." He stood as well. "And what do you want me to do? Strike gold in the yard? Transform the forge into a palace? I'm doing all I can. I work until my hands burn. I forgo my own comfort so you may have bread and coal. I cannot give you a ballroom, but I have given you my whole heart. She closed her eyes for a moment. Sometimes a heart is not enough. The words hung there, cruel and cold. He stared at her as if he did not recognize her. Has someone been speaking to you? He asked slowly. Putting these ideas in your head? No one put them there, she said. They have always been there. Today only made them louder. Today, he repeated. What happened today? Nothing that changes what is true, she said. Liam, I cannot do this any longer. I cannot wake up every morning hoping you will come home with a miracle. I cannot pretend I do not wish for a different life. He swallowed. And what life do you wish for? She thought of Malcolm Lennox's even voice, his fine coat, his promise of other possibilities spoken without any vulgarity, wrapped in propriety and care. A life where I am not forever on the edge of want, she said, where I am not pitied for choosing love over sense, where I am not a constant object of quiet scorn. He stepped back as if struck. And you think you can find that life away from me? She could not meet his eyes. I have had an offer of help, respectable help, a chance to start anew. I have not yet accepted it, but I am thinking of it. For whose sake? He asked hoarsely. Yours or theirs? For mine, she whispered. I am not sure I can bear another year like this, or 10, or 20. The room seemed smaller, the walls closer. I love you, Amelia, he said. I have loved you since we were children. I have built every hope of my life around you. Tell me what I must do to keep you, and I will do it. She shook her head. That is the problem, Liam. It is not about what you do. It is about who you are, and who you are may never be enough to give me what I need. He flinched. Then you never loved me as I loved you. I loved you, she said, tears rising. I still do. But love does not pay the rent. Love does not silence the whispers. Love does not fill the cupboards. He was silent for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was calmer, but there was something hollow in it. And if you leave, he asked, what will people say then? Will there be no whispers against a woman who abandons her husband because he is poor? There will be whispers either way, she said. At least this way, I might have the means to live above them. He looked at her as if seeing a stranger. Is your mind fixed? He asked. Her hands trembled. I do not know how to stay, she answered. So yes, I think it is. He nodded once. Then he walked to the small chest at the foot of the bed and opened it, lifting out the few things that were his alone. A book, a spare shirt, a knife for cutting bread. He set them on the chair. This is your home, he said. Such as it is, I will not throw you out of it. She stared. What are you doing? If you cannot remain with me as my wife, I cannot remain here as your husband, he said quietly. I cannot sit at this table and watch you dream of another man's house. I cannot lie beside you, knowing you regret every stone of this floor. Her voice broke. Liam, I did not ask you to leave. You do not need to, he replied. You have already left me, Amelia. You did it the moment you decided my love was not enough. He put on his coat and scarf, moving with a strange measured calm. At the door he paused and looked back at her. Perhaps one day you will have the life you think you deserve, he said. I hope it brings you peace. Truly I do. But I will not be there to see it. Tears were running down her face now. Where will you go? She whispered. I do not know, he said. Only away, somewhere no one remembers that I was the man a woman cast aside because he was poor. He opened the door. Cold air swept in. For a second she almost called him back. Almost. Liam, she said. He did not turn. Goodbye, Amelia. The door closed behind him with a dull thud. She stood in the quiet cottage, listening to the echo of his footsteps fade. Outside, the street was nearly empty, the rain beginning again in a fine mist. Liam pulled his coat tighter, his jaw set. He did not look back at the cottage. He did not look at the forge. He walked past them both, past the square, past the last houses of the village, his boots sinking into the wet earth, his heart raw and burning. He had nothing but his hands, his trade, and the shards of a love that had not been enough. Yet as he stepped into the dark lane with a single thought burning in his chest, he would never again allow anyone to look down on him. 3 years had passed since the day Liam walked out into the rain and did not look back. He had gone first to Inverness, then farther still following the work. At each forge he stayed only as long as he must, learning quickly, working harder than any man beside him. The soot and heat did not trouble him. Silence clung to him more than smoke. He spoke little, kept his thoughts to himself, and did not return to the village. On a grey morning in late spring, he woke in the small room he rented above a cooper's shop and pulled on a clean shirt. The street below was just stirring. He washed, tied his hair back, and took the stairs 2 at a time. The air outside smelled of wet stone and ash. At the corner, the master of the local forge, Mr. Darrow, was already waiting, tapping his boot against the stones. "You are late, McGregor," he said, though Liam was not. The key in the lock was stiff. Liam answered calmly. "Good morning," Darrow grunted. "We have work from Lord Strathmore's estate today. Carriage and fittings. Important. Do not crack anything." "I do not crack things," Liam said. "Only temper them." Darrow gave a short laugh despite himself. "Mind your tongue, and you may yet make something of yourself. Come on, the manservant will be here soon." Inside the forge, the heat rose as they lit the fire. Liam's movements were steady, economical. He had outgrown the uncertain apprentice he once was. His shoulders were broader now, his hands surer. The sound of hammer on metal, the flare of sparks, these were constants in a life that had lost most of its anchors. A carriage rolled into view just after sunrise, painted in deep, faded colors. A man in a sober coat climbed down and looked around with a critical eye. "I am sent from Strathmore," he said. "We require repairs. His lordship's carriage has been too long neglected." "You are in luck," Darrow said, wiping his hands. "My best man is here. McGregor, see what is needed. We'll not have the Duke complaining." "He is not a duke," the manservant corrected stiffly. "Lord Strathmore is an earl." "Forgive me," Darrow said with a shrug. "The nobility change styles so often, I lose track." Liam stepped forward, crouching by the wheels, the undercarriage, the fittings. He ran his fingers along the metal, feeling for weakness. "The axles are sound," he said, "but these bolts are worn. They should be replaced, and the steps will not hold if too much weight is put on them. A careless foot could slip." "The old master never travels far," the servant replied. "Only to the neighboring town for air it will do." Liam straightened and met his eyes. "If it fails while he is on the road, you may wish I had been more cautious. Leave it with us today. I will see it safe." The man hesitated, then nodded. "His lordship is particular about promptness. We must have it by afternoon." "You shall," Liam said. He set to work with the focused intensity that always surprised those who expected carelessness from a man of his station. Metal rang, fire glowed, and time slipped away. By midday, the carriage was sounder than it had been in years. Liam wiped his brow and stepped back. Darrow inspected the work and gave a grudging grunt of approval. "You might pass for a master yourself before long," he said. "If you do not run off again." "There is nowhere I must be," Liam replied. He did not add that there was nowhere he wished to be either. By late afternoon, the carriage stood ready. The Strathmore servant returned, checked the work with an air of doubt, and then his expression shifted. "This is better than I expected," he said. "My lord will be pleased. He complains often enough when things are done poorly." He paused. "He might like to see the man who did this. He tires of incompetence." "I only did my job," Liam said. "And I am certain his lordship will say something sarcastic and distant, and then forget you," the servant replied. "But if you wish, you may ride with me to the estate. He likes to ask questions about repairs." Darrow lifted a brow. "Go," he told Liam. "Perhaps the Earl will toss you a coin to gladden your heart." Liam considered for a moment, then nodded. "Very well." He climbed up beside the servant, the carriage creaking beneath them. They set off toward Strathmore, the town falling away behind them, fields opening out on either side. "Lord Strathmore is not a bad man," the servant said as they rode. "Only lonely and often ill. He has estates, but no close family. He worries himself into sickness." Liam nodded, saying nothing. At the same hour, miles away, Amelia stood in front of a looking-glass in a far more comfortable room than the cottage she had once shared with Liam. The bed was larger, the mattress softer, the walls freshly papered in a modest pattern. A small fire burned in the grate, casting a gentle glow on polished furniture. Her gown was of better cloth now, a deep green that fit well and had been sewn by a professional seamstress. A simple pendant hung at her throat. "Madam, Mr. Lennox asked if you require the carriage at past." the maid said from the doorway. Yes, Mary, thank you, Amelia replied. Tell him I will be ready. Very good, madam. The maid withdrew. Amelia studied her own reflection. She saw a woman of 27, composed with clear skin and well-kept hair. She had not grown prettier with time, but she had grown calmer, more controlled. The last 3 years had worn away the rawness of her regret and replaced it with something muffled and heavy. Behind her, on the dressing table, lay a pair of gloves and a small fan. She picked up the gloves and pulled them on. Does Madam approve of the gown? Mary had asked earlier. It is perfectly suitable, Amelia had replied. Not too plain, not too conspicuous. Malcolm Lennox preferred things that were perfectly suitable. When she had left the village, he had arranged everything with quiet precision. A legal separation. A move to a nearby town where her name drew fewer stares. A wedding, once the proper time had elapsed, that was neither grand nor mean, attended by those who valued propriety. He had kept his promises. She had comfort, security, and a place in society. Yet when she smiled, it rarely reached her eyes. Malcolm entered now, adjusting his cuffs. You are ready, Amelia? Yes, she said. He looked her over, not unkindly. The green suits you. You will make a good impression. A good impression on whom? She asked. On the Parkers, and on anyone else who happens to be there, he said. One never knows when a useful acquaintance may be formed. Tonight is as much a business opportunity as a social one. You understand? I understand, she said. He offered his arm. She took it. They went out to the waiting carriage, the one he had purchased the previous year. It was not grand, but it was theirs. On the road, Malcolm spoke of accounts, cargo, and a possible new supplier. Amelia listened without much interest. You will charm them, he said eventually. Mrs. Parker is sentimental. Talk to her of music and books. Mention your father's name when it suits you. She respects old family lines. She will respect that I am the wife of a successful merchant, Amelia said. She will respect that you are both, he corrected. Do not frown, Amelia. You are well placed now. There is no need to look as though you face a firing squad. She turned her gaze to the window. Fields rolled by, green and peaceful. Once she would have walked among them with Liam, talking of dreams. Now she rode in a closed carriage beside a man who measured dreams by profit. At the Parker house, candles burned in every window. Guests were already arriving, their carriages lined along the drive. Inside, the air was filled with voices and the clink of china. Amelia was greeted politely. Some remembered her as Amelia Fraser, some as Mrs. Lennox. Few mentioned the years that lay between. Mrs. Lennox, Mrs. Parker said warmly. How delightful to see you. And Mr. Lennox, of course. My husband is eager to discuss your last shipment. Business follows me everywhere, Malcolm said with an easy smile. I do not complain. He was quickly drawn into conversation with the men near the fireplace. Amelia was guided toward a cluster of women near a table of delicate cakes. So you are Mrs. Lennox, one of them said. I have heard of you. You grew up near Strathmore, did you not? In a village there? Yes, Amelia replied. My family had a small estate nearby. I recall hearing something about a very romantic match, another woman added, but not with Mr. Lennox. Forgive me, perhaps I mistake. Amelia felt the familiar twinge in her chest. It was a youthful attachment, she said lightly. Quite in the past. Ah, the first woman said, as though that explained everything. Well, you must be content now. Mr. Lennox is reputed to be prudent and reliable. My husband says his accounts are impeccable, and that is what every girl dreams of, a younger woman murmured under her breath. Impeccable accounts. They laughed a little. Amelia forced a smile. Later, as the evening wore on, she drifted near a pair of women speaking in lower tones. Do you know, I heard that when she first married it was to a blacksmith's apprentice, one said. Imagine. From a Fraser to that. Yes, I heard something similar, the other replied. Still, she has landed on her feet. Mr. Lennox is respectable enough. A little stiff, perhaps. Respectable can be so dull, the first said, but I suppose after such a misstep, one must accept what one can get. They did not notice Amelia standing just within earshot. She turned away, her throat tight. A misstep. That was what they called her choice. Not love, not courage, not folly, only a misstep. Amelia, Malcolm said, appearing at her elbow. "Are you unwell? You look pale." "I am quite well," she replied. "The room is warm, that is all." "We will stay another hour," he said. "I still must speak to Parker about the next shipment. Have some wine. Talk to Mrs. Parker. You look too serious." She endured another hour of politeness, then rode home in silence, while Malcolm spoke of profit margins and opportunities. He did not ask again why she was quiet. Perhaps he assumed she was tired. Perhaps he did not see at all. While she smiled and nodded and hid the sting of those whispered words, the carriage from Lord Strathmore's estate rattled along a country road, carrying Liam toward a very different evening. The drive to Strathmore was long enough for the light to fade. The estate when it appeared was large but not ostentatious. A long, low house stood among older trees, its stone dark against the sky. Lamps burned in several windows. The servant drew the carriage to a halt. "Come along then," he said. "His lordship will not thank us for standing in the drive all night." Inside, the entrance hall was simple but elegant. A footman took Liam's coat with a practiced expression that betrayed nothing of his thoughts about workmen in the house. "McGregor, is it?" a voice called from a nearby room. Liam turned. An older man stood in the doorway leaning on a cane. His hair was mostly white, his face lined, but his eyes were sharp. He wore a dark coat and a heavy ring on his finger. "Yes, my lord," Liam said. "From Mr. Darrow's forge." Lord Strathmore studied him. "You are younger than I expected." "I began young," Liam replied. The older man's mouth twitched. "So did I," he said. "Come in then. I like to see the faces of the men who hammer my conveyances into shape. It gives me something to imagine when the wheels rattle." Liam stepped into a study lined with shelves. A fire burned in the hearth, and a decanter sat on a small table. "You repaired the carriage?" the Earl asked. "Yes, my lord." "Sit," Strathmore said. "I cannot speak properly to a man who stands stiff as a soldier on parade. I am ill, not royal." Liam hesitated, then sat on the edge of the chair. "Tell me what was wrong with it," Strathmore said. "The fittings were worn," Liam answered. "The bolts loosened, the steps unsafe. I replaced what was weak." "And can it be trusted now?" the Earl asked. "I am not as steady as I once was." "It can," Liam said. "But I advise no journeys in very bad weather. Old wood can be strengthened but not remade entirely." Strathmore regarded him thoughtfully. "You speak plainly. You asked a question, my lord." "Many men would have told me only what they thought I wished to hear," Strathmore replied. "I have lived long enough to know the sound of flattery. It is as thin as cheap glass. You do not flatter." "I have no practice at it," Liam said. Strathmore's gaze dropped to Liam's hands. "You are skilled," he said. "Darrow has used you well. Where did you learn?" "In a small village forge," Liam answered. "North of here. I left some years ago." "Left or fled?" the Earl asked lightly. Liam's jaw tightened. "Left, my lord." Strathmore nodded, sensing the border he should not cross. "Most men who leave a place like that dream of returning as masters," he said. "Do you?" "No," Liam said. "What do you dream of?" Strathmore's voice was not mocking now, only curious. "I do not spend much time on dreams," Liam answered. "I work, I sleep, that is enough. For the body, perhaps," the Earl murmured. "Not always for the mind, or the heart." He reached for the decanter and poured a small measure into a glass, then gestured toward another. "Will you take a drink?" "I should return to town," Liam said. "Mr. Darrow will expect—" "Mr. Darrow can wait," Strathmore interrupted. "You have earned a moment by my fire. Humour an old man who finds most company tedious." Liam accepted the glass. The liquid was smooth and warmed his throat. Strathmore watched him over the rim of his own glass. "You are not like the usual workmen I deal with." "In what way, my lord?" "You listen when spoken to," the Earl said. "You watch everything. You answer without grovelling, yet without insolence. It is an unusual balance." Liam shrugged slightly. "I learned long ago that pride does not fill a man's stomach. But I will not crawl either." "Who taught you that?" Strathmore asked. "Your father?" "Life," Liam said. The older man leaned back in his chair, studying the fire. "Life has been a relentless tutor to me as well," he said. "It taught me that wealth without trust is a burden. I have estates, tenants, servants, but no one I trust with the things that matter when I am gone." "You have no family?" Liam asked before he could stop himself. Strathmore gave a short laugh without much humour. Distant cousins who eye my holdings as one eyes a carcass. A few names on a family tree who send polite letters at Christmas. No sons, no brothers. My wife died many years ago. She bore me one child who lived only a few months. Since then, Strathmore has been a house waiting for replacement furniture. Liam did not know what to say to that. He stared at the fire. "Do not pity me," Strathmore said quietly. "I have lived longer than most. But a man begins to wonder at my age, what will become of the things he has laboured over, of the people who depend on him? I see men around me who think only of squeezing one more coin from each tenant. I do not wish to leave my name in such hands." "You could appoint a steward," Liam suggested. "Someone fair." "I have stewards," Strathmore replied. "They obey my orders now. Without my orders, they will obey the man who signs their wages. The wrong man, and everything rots from the head down." He paused. "Tell me, McGregor, have you ever been entrusted with something that did not belong to you?" Liam thought of Amelia's face the day he left, the cottage he had walked away from because he could not bear to stay in a place where he was unwanted. "Yes," he said quietly, "I have." "And did you guard it well?" Strathmore asked. "I tried," Liam answered. "I failed." The Earl studied him. "Perhaps you were not the one who failed," he said. "Sometimes trust is thrown away by those who receive it, not those who give it." Liam said nothing. Strathmore set his glass down. "I have been watching men like you for years," he said. "Men who work, who think, who do not lie when it would be convenient. Most of them are too busy surviving to look beyond the next day, but a few could carry more." "More what?" Liam asked. "More responsibility, more power," the Earl replied. "More weight of others' lives." "I am a blacksmith," Liam said. "I mend wheels and hinges. That is the weight I carry." "Today," Strathmore said quietly. "Today, that is all." He leaned forward, his gaze sharp. "I want you to come to Strathmore again," he said. "Not as a repairman, as my guest. As someone I wish to know better." Liam felt a flicker of unease. "I am honoured, my lord, but I do not belong in your house." "That is for me to decide," Strathmore said. "Not for you. I have had my fill of men who belong only by accident of birth. I wish to see what a man like you would do, given different tools to work with." "I would not know how to use them," Liam said. "You learn to strike iron," the Earl replied. "You can learn this too." They sat in silence for a few moments, the fire crackling softly. At last Strathmore spoke again, his voice low and firm. "I have made a decision, McGregor," he said. "I will not leave my lands to men who will bleed them dry. I would rather take a risk on a stranger with a straight back and an honest tongue." Liam frowned slightly. "My lord?" The older man's eyes held his. "Tomorrow," Lord Strathmore said, "I shall send for my solicitor, and when he arrives, I intend to change my will in a way that concerns you very closely indeed." The letter with the black border lay unopened on Amelia's writing desk, though she had read it a dozen times. It bore Malcolm's lawyer's careful hand, confirming what she already knew. The accounts were in order, the investments modest but sound, the house hers for life. It was all precisely arranged, exactly as Malcolm would have wished. He had left nothing to chance, not even his own absence. "Madam?" Mary's voice came from the doorway. "Shall I bring in your tea now?" "Yes, thank you," Amelia said, pulling her gaze away from the letter. Mary set the tray down and hesitated. "The boy from the newspaper is here. Shall I send him away?" "No," Amelia said. "I will take it." Mary disappeared and returned with the folded sheet. The ink was still faintly smudged. Amelia took it, more from habit than interest, and opened it with a weary flick of her fingers. She skimmed the first page. A speech in Parliament, a minor scandal about a theatre in London, some prices for grain. Her mind drifted. Then her eye caught a name in larger type near the bottom of the column. She froze. "Newly installed Duke of Strathmore to visit Highland Estates," the heading read. Her heart gave a sharp, painful jump. Strathmore. She bent closer. His Grace the Duke of Strathmore, recently confirmed in his title and responsibilities following the death of his predecessor, is expected to visit his Highland properties next month. Formerly of humble origin, His Grace Liam McGregor was elevated through the late Earl's will and has been much remarked upon in both town and country society for his industry and unusual rise. The words blurred. Liam McGregor. The newspaper shook in her hands. For a moment she thought she must be mistaken. Liam was a blacksmith's apprentice. Liam was a man who mended ploughs and horseshoes. Liam was... Madam? Mary's voice sounded distant. Are you quite well? Amelia forced her fingers to steady and lowered the paper. I am fine, she said. Just surprised by something I read. Mary gave her a concerned look, then withdrew. The door closed softly behind her. Amelia sank into the nearest chair and stared at the name again. Liam McGregor, Duke of Strathmore. She read the paragraph 3 times. The story told of an elderly earl without direct heir, of gratitude for a loyal servant, of an unusual bequest. There were hints of criticism from certain noble families and praise from others for the merit of elevating industry. His elevation has caused some stir, the article continued. Yet, by all accounts, His Grace has conducted himself with dignity and prudence. It is expected that he will soon settle matters at Strathmore and in due course seek a bride befitting his new station. Her throat tightened. A bride befitting his new station. She folded the paper slowly, pressing the creases with numb fingers. Images came unbidden. Liam's hands blackened with soot, his laugh when they were very young, his face in the doorway the day he left, the way he had not looked back. Amelia? She had not heard the door open. Mrs. Fraser, older now but still sharp-eyed, stood just inside, cheeks flushed with the cold. I knocked twice, her cousin said. Mary let me in. She said you looked pale. Are you ill? No, Amelia said. Only taken by surprise. Mrs. Fraser's gaze fell on the newspaper. Ah, you have seen it. You knew? Amelia asked. Everyone knows, her cousin replied. The news has been buzzing through town since yesterday. Liam McGregor, a duke. She shook her head. Who would have thought it? Amelia swallowed. You did not consider it worth mentioning to me. I was not sure how you would take it, Mrs. Fraser said frankly. You are a widow now, and the past is delicate. I thought perhaps you would hear of it at some gathering and dismiss it with a smile. Is that what you would do? Amelia asked quietly. Mrs. Fraser hesitated. I would remember that I chose my path and walked it, she said at last, and that no newspaper can change what is finished. Finished. The word settled heavily between them. Will he come here? Amelia asked. So the paper says, her cousin answered. Strathmore is but a few hours' ride. The late Earl rarely visited, but his successor may wish to show himself, especially given the whispers. There is talk of a reception. The McKinnons or the Parkers will not want to miss the chance to have a duke under their roof. She paused. You will likely be invited. Amelia stared at the closed newspaper. And if I do not go? There will be talk, Mrs. Fraser said bluntly. You are Mrs. Lennox now. Malcolm did business with half the county. People will expect you to appear. They have nearly forgotten the earlier story. Nearly? Do not give them cause to remember it too clearly. I do not think they have ever forgotten, Amelia murmured. Her cousin sighed. Then hold your head up and pretend you do not hear them. You have done so before. Yes, Amelia said, I have. After her cousin left, the house felt too quiet. The ticking of the clock, the faint crackle of the fire, the rustle of Mary moving somewhere downstairs. Each sound seemed to underline the silence in her chest. She unfolded the newspaper once more and traced Liam's name with her fingertip. You did not look back, she whispered, and now you stand above us all. That night, sleep did not come easily. When it did, it brought dreams of a young man with soot on his face standing in a great hall beneath a chandelier, surrounded by people in fine clothes who called him Your Grace. Some days later, in another house far grander than Malcolm Lennox's, Liam sat at a large desk, a pile of correspondence before him. Your Grace, these are from your London solicitor, his secretary said, placing another bundle on the table. There are also letters from 3 neighbouring landowners requesting meetings, and one from a certain Lady Harrow, who invites you to dine whenever it is convenient. Does she? Liam said dryly. How kind. The secretary, Mr. Fenwick, a thin man with a precise manner, gave a small knowing cough. She has 2 unmarried daughters, Your Grace. So I have been told, Liam replied. He signed another document, the pen moving steadily. I am not currently shopping for a wife, Fenwick. I am still learning where my own fields begin and end. Of course, Your Grace, Fenwick said. Nevertheless, society expected me to remain at a forge, Liam interrupted. It seems society is often wrong. Fenwick pressed his lips together, as if keeping back a smile. You have also received a letter from Mrs. Campbell in the village near Strathmore, he said. She sends her blessings and a jar of jam. Liam looked up at that. Mrs. Campbell? Yes, Your Grace. She writes that she knew you when you were knee-high, and that you were always a good boy. It is quite touching. A corner of Liam's mouth lifted. Send her a note of thanks, he said, and make sure Mrs. Campbell never wants for coal in winter. Yes, Your Grace. Liam set aside the legal papers and leaned back for a moment. The office, with its tall windows and shelves of ledgers, still felt like a costume he had not entirely grown into. The title, the servants, the bowing, they were armor and weight at once. Your Grace, Fenwick said, there is also the matter of your visit to the Highland estates. The tenants have been informed. The local gentry are eager to see if the blacksmith remembers which fork to use, Liam said. Fenwick hesitated. There is curiosity, certainly, some skepticism, but also genuine interest. Strathmore has been absent from those lands for many years. Your presence will reassure them. Liam nodded slowly. We will go, he said. I want to walk those fields myself. I want to speak to the tenants without a steward standing in the way. As you wish, Your Grace, Fenwick said. I have also received inquiries from 2 households in the town nearest the estate, the Parker family and the McKinnons. They both offer to host a reception in your honor. Of course they do, Liam murmured. He considered. Choose one. I do not care which. The Parkers are better connected, Fenwick said, but the McKinnons have a longer history in the area. Flip a coin then, Liam replied. Tell whichever loses that I will call informally some other time, and make sure the invitation lists include not only the grand names but the smaller ones. Shopkeepers, clergymen, those who live off our land and not only beside it. Fenwick bowed his head. Very good, Your Grace. When he had gone, Liam rose and walked to the window. The gardens below were neat, the gravel paths raked smooth. A pair of gardeners were pruning a hedge, moving with quiet efficiency. Strathmore had once been only a word to him, attached to a distant house and an old man whose carriage he had mended. Now it was his responsibility, his inheritance, his title, his grace. The first time someone had addressed him that way, he had nearly turned to see who stood behind him. Now, he answered without thinking. Yet sometimes in the quiet moments he heard another voice in his head. Who you are may never be enough to give me what I need. He had repeated those words so many times that they had lost their sting and hardened into something else. A warning, perhaps, or a shield. He wondered in a detached way what Amelia would think if she saw him now, whether she would regret, whether she would laugh, whether she would care at all. Your Grace? Fenwick's voice came from the doorway again. Forgive the interruption. The final arrangements for the reception near Strathmore have been confirmed. The Parkers have been selected. The date is set for 3 weeks hence. Liam nodded. Very well. The guest list includes the principal families of the area, Fenwick continued. Their names are here. He extended a folded paper. Liam took it and scanned the list without much interest. Parker, McKinnon, Harrowby, Lennox. He stopped. Lennox, he said. Yes, Your Grace, Fenwick replied. Mr. Malcolm Lennox conducted business with the Parkers for years. His widow is well respected. She now resides in the town. Liam's grip tightened on the paper. Widow? Yes, Your Grace, Fenwick said. Mr. Lennox died of a fever last winter. His affairs were in good order. The widow is provided for, Mrs. Amelia Lennox. The room seemed to tilt for a second. Amelia, he repeated, the name tasting strange in his mouth. Is something amiss, Your Grace? Fenwick asked, puzzled. Liam folded the list carefully. No, he said, nothing at all. Invite her, of course. She is a person of standing in the area. Very good, Your Grace. When Fenwick left, Liam remained standing, the folded paper in his hand. So, he thought, the world is smaller than I imagined. In the town, the Parker household hummed with activity. Servants polished silver and aired out gowns. Word of the Duke's impending visit had spread quickly, and preparations became a kind of frenzy. Amelia received her invitation 2 days later. The envelope was thick, the script elegant. She opened it at the breakfast table. "You are invited, of course," Mrs. Fraser said, sitting opposite her. "The Parkers could not omit you without appearing ill-bred. You must accept." Amelia read the lines. "Mr. and Mrs. Parker request the pleasure of Mrs. Lennox's company at a reception in honor of His Grace the Duke of Strathmore." Her hand trembled. "You must accept," Mrs. Fraser repeated. "Objecting will only draw attention." "I know," Amelia said. "Besides," her cousin added, lowering her voice, "what harm can there be? You will be one guest among many. He may not even remark you." Amelia stared at the page. "I do not know which would be worse," she said quietly, "that he should see me or that he should not." On the evening of the reception, she stood before her wardrobe for a long time. Mary held up 2 gowns. "The grey, madam?" the maid suggested. "It is modest and suits mourning. Or the blue, it brings out your eyes." "The mourning year is over," Mrs. Fraser had reminded her earlier. "You are not bound to black forever." Now Amelia reached for the blue. "This one," she said, "but with the simpler shawl." "Yes, madam." Mary helped her dress, pinning her hair with careful fingers. Amelia let her mind far away. At the Parker house, candles glowed in the windows. Carriages arrived one after another. The air outside was crisp, the stars faint behind thin clouds. Inside the hall buzzed, ladies in silk and satin, gentlemen in dark coats, all speaking at once, their words weaving a bright, restless pattern. "Mrs. Lennox," Mrs. Parker said as Amelia entered. "How lovely to see you. Your gown is charming." "You are kind," Amelia replied. Her heart was beating too fast. She glanced around, but there was no sign yet of the Duke. "You will meet His Grace with the rest," Mrs. Parker said. "He is to arrive presently. Everyone is quite beside themselves. Imagine, born a commoner and now a duke. Remarkable, is it not?" "Yes," Amelia said. "Remarkable." She moved into the drawing room, where a group of ladies were already gathered near the fireplace. "I hear he is very handsome," one whispered, "tall, with dark hair and a most impressive bearing." "And so serious," another added. "Apparently he looks right through people, as if he is weighing them, like cuts of meat." "I heard he is to seek a bride soon," a third said. "One must settle the succession. Perhaps he wishes a lady of considerable refinement to soften his rustic origins." They giggled behind their fans. "Do not be unkind," someone protested. "He may be quite refined himself by now. The papers say he is very dignified." "The papers say many things," the first woman replied. "I shall judge with my own eyes." Amelia stood slightly apart, her hands clasped tightly around her fan. The chatter grew louder as more guests arrived. Then the room stilled. Somewhere near the entrance the butler's voice rang out. "His Grace, the Duke of Strathmore." The hum of voices dropped to a hush, then a murmur. People shifted, turning, craning their necks. Amelia did not want to look and could not stop herself. Her head turned with the rest. He stood in the doorway, accompanied by Mr. Parker and a pair of gentlemen. The years had changed him, but not beyond recognition. His shoulders were broader, his bearing straighter. His hair was tamed, his jaw clean-shaven. His clothes were cut from fine cloth and fit perfectly. But his eyes were the same, dark and steady. Her breath caught. The room seemed unnaturally bright. Mr. Parker led him forward, making introductions. Liam, no, His Grace, inclined his head, spoke courteously, shook hands. There was a distance in his manner, but no awkwardness. He moved as though he had been born to it. "He does not look rustic at all," one of the women near Amelia murmured. "If I did not know, I would assume him the son of a dozen lords." "That is the thing," another replied. "Now that he is a duke, he is more noble than they are. They must bow to him." Liam's gaze passed over the room, measuring, acknowledging, moving on. Amelia felt it coming toward her like a tide. She did not drop hers. She could not. Their eyes met. For a heartbeat, everything else vanished. The music, the chatter, the flicker of candles. Gone. There was only the space between them, and the memory of a small cottage and a slammed door. His expression did not change. He did not start, did not flush. He looked at her, as he might look at any other woman in the room. But something in his gaze sharpened, as if a distant detail had come into focus. Then he looked away and greeted another guest. Amelia's chest felt tight. She forced herself to breathe steadily. "Mrs. Lennox," a gentleman said at her elbow, "may I fetch you some punch?" "Thank you, Mr. Harrowby," she replied, barely hearing him. Liam moved slowly around the room with Mr. Parker, being introduced to each guest in turn. Amelia watched him draw closer, person by person. She considered slipping away, but there was nowhere to go that would not be obvious. Every exit seemed full of eyes. At last, Mr. Parker stopped in front of her. "Your Grace," he said, "may I present Mrs. Amelia Lennox? Her late husband was of great assistance to my business over the years. She is a valued neighbor." Liam turned fully toward her. "Mrs. Lennox," he said, in a voice that was deeper than she remembered, but composed. "It is a pleasure." She sank into a curtsy, hoping her knees would not give way. "Your Grace." He took her hand for a brief moment. His touch was light, impersonal. He released it at once. "How do you find the town?" he asked. "I am told you have not been here long." "Long enough to call it home," she managed. "It is a pleasant place." "I am glad to hear it," he said. His eyes rested on her face, not with warmth, but with a calm curiosity that felt worse somehow. As if she were a stranger, he was judging for the first time. "You knew the late Earl?" she asked, because silence felt unbearable. "I did," he replied. "He entrusted me with more than I expected." He paused. "As you see." "Yes," she said softly. "I see." Mr. Parker looked between them, oblivious to the undercurrent. "Mrs. Lennox grew up near your estates, Your Grace," he said. "Her family had a small property not far from Strathmore." "Did they?" Liam said. "Then we are almost neighbors." "Almost," the word twisted. "Indeed," Amelia replied. "The world is smaller than one imagines." Mr. Parker chuckled, pleased with this harmless remark. "You must both have many acquaintances in common," he said. "I shall leave you to discover them." He moved away, called by another guest. For a moment, Amelia and Liam stood alone in the small clearing of space he left behind. "You have done well for yourself," she said quietly. "Your Grace." He studied her, his expression unreadable. "I have been fortunate," he said. "Fortune favors the diligent," she replied. "And the brave." He tilted his head slightly. "And you, Mrs. Lennox? Have you found what you wished for?" Her throat tightened. "I have found security," she said. "Comfort, respectable acquaintances." "And is that enough?" he asked. She forced a smile. "We must all learn to be content with what we chose." Something flickered in his gaze, a spark quickly hidden. "Yes," he said. "We must." A couple approached, eager to speak to the Duke. He inclined his head to Amelia, a gesture neither cold nor kind, simply correct. "If you will excuse me, Mrs. Lennox," he said. "Duty calls." "Of course, Your Grace," she answered. He moved away, swallowed at once by the crowd. She watched him be welcomed, flattered, drawn into conversation. Ladies fluttered around him, men leaned in to speak earnestly of land and policy. Beside her, two women whispered behind their fans. "I am told His Grace has not yet chosen a bride," one said. "Imagine being the woman who rises with him, from humble beginnings to a duchess's coronet." "He will not choose lightly," the other replied. "He must have someone above reproach. One false step, and all the old stories will rise against him. His wife will need to be a symbol as much as a companion. And until he chooses, every unmarried woman in 3 counties will be measuring herself in a mirror," the first said with a little laugh. "Can you imagine the tension?" Amelia stared at Liam across the room, surrounded by light and expectation, and realized with a cold clarity that she might very well have to stand there and watch while he chose another woman to stand at his side forever. The rain came down in a steady curtain, blurring the windows of Strathmore Hall and turning the gravel drive into a glistening ribbon of grey. Amelia stood just inside the great entrance, shaking droplets from her shawl. Her bonnet dripped onto the polished floor. She felt as if every drop were a small apology for daring to cross the threshold. "Mrs. Lennox," a footman said, "His Grace asked that you be shown to the smaller drawing room. The other ladies will join you presently." "Thank you," she said. She had received the letter a week before, a formal invitation from the Duke of Strathmore to attend a meeting regarding the establishment of a small school and relief fund for the village children. The letter had been written in a secretary's hand, but the signature at the bottom was Liam's. Liam McGregor, Duke of Strathmore, patron of charity. Mrs. Parker had insisted that Amelia attend. "You have experience with accounts," she said. "Malcolm trusted you with his ledgers. The Duke needs women who can manage such things without turning them into social clubs." Mrs. Fraser agreed. "Besides, you cannot avoid him forever. It is a public matter. You will be in a group. There is no impropriety." Now, as Amelia followed the footman down a wide corridor, she wondered if the rain might have been an omen. The house felt too large, too silent. The smaller drawing room was not small at all, only less imposing than the main hall. A fire burned cheerfully in the grate, and a large table stood near the windows, already laid with papers and inkwells. A clock ticked on the mantel. "His Grace will be with you shortly," the footman said. "I believe Mrs. Parker and Mrs. McKinnon are delayed by the weather, but their carriages left town some time ago." "Thank you," Amelia said. She removed her damp shawl and gloves and sat on the edge of a chair, hands folded in her lap. The room smelled faintly of beeswax and smoke. She listened for the sound of other footsteps. None came. Instead, she heard the distinct, measured tread of one man approaching. The door opened. Liam stepped in, closing it behind him. He wore a dark coat, simpler than the evening finery she had seen at the reception, but perfectly cut. The only ornament was the signet ring on his hand. "Mrs. Lennox," he said. "Your Grace," she replied, standing. He glanced at the empty chairs, the waiting table. "It seems we are the first to arrive," he said, "or perhaps the only ones foolish enough to trust the roads in this weather." "I'm sure the others are on their way," she said. "The rain grew worse as we left town." He walked to the window and looked out. The drive was a blur of water. No carriage wheels could be seen. "It may be some time," he said. "I sent a rider earlier. A fallen tree blocked the main road. Smaller lanes may be worse." "So we are alone," she said before she could stop herself. His gaze flicked to her face. "For the moment, yes," he said calmly, "though I imagine my staff are somewhere nearby, listening through keyholes and worrying about table linens." She managed a weak smile. He moved to the table and gestured toward the papers. "I had hoped to discuss the particulars of the school with several of the local ladies today," he said. "It seems you will have the first say." "I am not sure my opinion is worth more than theirs," she answered. "You grew up near here," he said. "You know these families. You understand pride and hunger and how they live beneath the same roof. That knowledge is worth more than 50 lists of donations." She hesitated, then stepped closer. The papers were neat columns of figures and notes, proposed locations, estimates for repairs, lists of children. "You have done much already," she said. "You could simply send money and leave the rest to the vicar." "I could," he said. "But my predecessor sent money and rarely appeared. It did not prevent roofs from leaking or children from going barefoot. I would rather see where my coin lands." She nodded slowly. "It will matter to them that you came," she said, "even if some will grumble out of habit." "They grumbled before," he replied. "At least they grumble up at me now and not down." There was a pause. The rain beat against the glass. "Sit," he said, a little softer. "We may as well make good use of this accident. Tell me what you think of the plan." She took the chair opposite him at the table. He pushed one of the papers toward her. "You propose the old parish house as a school," she said after scanning it. "The roof needs repair, the windows too." "Yes," he said. "Cheaper than building from nothing, closer to the cottages where the children live. But if the roof leaks, they will not come in winter." "You will need more than one teacher," she said. "A single man or woman cannot manage all ages." "One master and one assistant," he replied. "Perhaps a local girl with some education to keep the younger ones quiet." "A local girl," she repeated. "Give her a salary and you may save more than the children. Many girls in the village marry the first man who asks, simply to escape hunger. A wage might give them a different escape." He watched her with a thoughtful expression. "I speak from observation," he said, "not imagination." "Yes," she said, "observation." "Did you ever wish for such a position?" he asked. "To earn your own living, rather than depend on a husband's trade or investments?" She gave a short laugh. "My father would have fainted at the idea. A Fraser woman taking wages. It would have been an outrage." She paused. "Sometimes I think I would have preferred it." He looked down at the table. "You preferred what you chose," he said quietly. "Or believed you did." She closed her fingers around the edge of the paper. "I believed many things," she said. "I was wrong in more of them than I care to admit." He did not answer at once. The clock ticked between them. "The fund must be managed carefully," she said, forcing herself back to the papers. "If you begin with too much generosity and then grow weary, the people will feel betrayed. Better to promise only what can be maintained." "You think I will grow weary," he said. "I think you are one man," she replied. "And one man cannot fix every broken window in the county, no matter his title." He gave a faint, genuine smile. "That is true," he said. "I will remember your counsel." He made a small note. She watched the movement of his hand, the firmness of it. It was the same hand that had once lifted a hammer, held hers at the altar, touched her cheek in the dark. Now it held a pen with equal certainty. "Liam," she said suddenly. The name slipped out before she could catch it. His hand stilled. He looked up, and for the first time that afternoon, something raw showed beneath the practiced calm. "You should not call me that," he said. "It is no longer proper." "I know," she said. "Forgive me." He set the pen down. "What is it you wish to say, Amelia?" She swallowed. "I have asked myself that question 100 times," she said. "At night, when the house is quiet, in church, when the vicar speaks of forgiveness. I rehearsed speeches. None of them sound true when I stand before you." "Try one," he said. "We have time. The roads are flooded." She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "Very well," she said. "I will try the simplest one." She met his eyes. "I am sorry," she said, "for leaving you as I did, for every word I said that made you feel less than you are, for not trusting you or myself or the God I claimed to believe in when we stood before the altar." He watched her without moving. "I cannot undo it," she continued. "I cannot ask you to pretend it did not happen. But I can say that I know now how wrong I was, not only in hurting you, but in believing that wealth and respect would heal what poverty made sore. They did not." He rested his forearms on the table, fingers interlaced. "You have comfort now," he said. "People respect you. They respect my name," she said, "my late husband's caution, my current address. They do not know my heart. I barely know it myself." She paused. "I thought I would feel safe once I had enough. Instead, I feel watched, measured, as if every step I took before were being weighed against what I have now." "And how does it balance?" he asked quietly. "Poorly," she said. "On the side of regret." He was silent for a moment. "When I walked away from the village," he said at last, "I told myself I would never again be ashamed when a man looked down at me. I worked until my hands bled. I took every opportunity that came, no matter how unlikely. When Lord Strathmore spoke of altering his will, I almost refused. It felt like theft, like wearing clothes that were not mine. But you accepted," she said softly. "I accepted," he answered, "because I was tired of believing I was worth only what my wages could buy, because some angry part of me wanted to stand in a room like this and see the faces of people who had dismissed me. I wanted to see their surprise, their discomfort." He looked at her. "I wanted to see yours." She did not flinch. "You saw it," she said. "Were you satisfied?" He gave a small, humorless smile. "No," he said. "It turns out that humiliation is a poor meal, even when served to those who once served it to you. It does not fill a man." She felt tears prick her eyes. "Then what does?" He shook his head slightly. "I do not yet know," he said. "But I know what does not. Titles, houses, the sound of strangers saying Your Grace without knowing anything of the man behind the words." "They see a duke," she said, "not the blacksmith who once carried coal for Mrs. Campbell." "Perhaps it is better that way," he replied. "The blacksmith has too many ghosts." The rain had softened to a steady patter. No carriage wheels sounded on the drive. "What did you feel?" she asked quietly. "When you saw me at the reception?" He looked at her steadily. "Angry," he said, "and nothing." "Both at once." "Nothing?" she repeated. "For a moment," he said, "as if the man who had loved you had died somewhere on that road out of the village, and only the Duke remained to greet you. It was frightening to feel that hollow." "And afterward?" she asked. "Afterward," he said slowly, "I felt the man I had been knocking on the walls I had built around him. Annoyingly persistent as he always was." She gave a shaky smile at that. "He was," she said, "persistently hopeful, even when it made no sense. He was a fool," Liam said, "but he was not unkind." "No," she said, He was the kindest person I knew, which makes what I did to him all the worse." He studied her face. "Did Malcolm make you happy?" he asked. She took a breath. "He made me safe," she said. "He was decent, honest in his way. He never raised his voice. He managed his money carefully and provided for me even after he was gone. I was never cold or hungry in his house. I was never loved there as I had been with you. I told myself that love was childish, that safety was everything." She looked down at her hands. "Sometimes I wondered if he guessed how much of me still lived somewhere else. If he did, he never asked." "And now?" Liam said. "What do you want now?" She let the question hang between them, tasting the weight of it. "Peace," she said at last. "Not the peace of a full cupboard and a quiet house. The peace of knowing that I am not forever bound to my worst decision, that my whole life is not ruined by it, that I can do some good somewhere and not be only the woman who left her husband because he was poor." He was quiet for a long moment. The clock ticked. The fire crackled. The rain tapped steadily at the glass. "You are more than that," he said finally, "even if people enjoy reducing you to a sentence whispered behind a fan. I have learned that most stories can be told in a cruel way or a generous one. The facts do not change, only the heart that speaks them." "And what heart speaks of me?" she asked. He met her gaze. "Mine," he said, "more often than I care to admit." Her breath caught. "I wanted to hate you," he continued. "It would have been simpler. Hatred is clean. It sharpens a man's edges. But every time I thought of you, I saw the girl who met me by the river, who shared her bread, who believed I could be more than a boy hammering iron in a shed. She existed, even if the woman who left tried to outrun her." "She did outrun her," Amelia whispered. "For a time, perhaps," he said, "but she left footprints." He rose and walked to the window, looking out at the wet drive. She watched his back, the straight line of his shoulders. "I do not know what to do with you, Amelia," he said quietly. "In my thoughts, in my heart, in this place. You are a guest I did not expect, and one I cannot persuade myself to turn away at the door." She stood as well. "I do not ask to stay," she said. "In your thoughts or your heart or this house. I came today because your letter spoke of children and floors that need mending. I thought perhaps I could help hammer a nail or two into something good. That is all." He turned back to her. "And if I wish to ask more?" he said. She stared. "More? Not now," he said at once. "Not while the rain is trapping us like characters in a poorly written play. I mean in the days to come, if I wish to speak with you again, to hear more of what you think, to consider what place you might hold in the life I am trying to build here." Her heart pounded. "Liam," she began. "Your Grace," he corrected automatically. She almost laughed. "Your Grace, then. You owe me nothing, you know that. I have no right to ask for even this conversation, let alone more. Rights and debts are the language of ledgers," he said. "I am tired of balancing books in my soul. I am asking if you would be willing to let the past be more than a weight, if you would allow it to be a lesson, for both of us." She took a step closer, though the table still stood between them. "I would like that," she said softly, "to be more lesson than curse." He watched her, searching her face. "I cannot promise you anything today," he said. "Not forgiveness, not a future, not a title beside mine. I do not yet know what is wise or possible. All I know is that when I think of the woman I might stand beside in truth, not for the sake of appearances, I think of someone who has fallen and risen again, who knows the price of pride, who will not take comfort for granted." He paused. "I think of you, and I am afraid." "Afraid?" she repeated. "Afraid that I will be foolish," he said. "Afraid that others will say I have humbled the title by choosing the woman who once chose against me. Afraid that they will be right. Afraid that they will be wrong, and that I will miss the only chance I have to be truly happy because I feared their whispers more than my own heart." She felt tears spill over now, hot and unstoppable. "You are not the only one who is afraid," she said. "I fear that I will only hurt you again, that my presence will be a constant reminder of your pain, that people will sneer and you will bear it because of me, that I will never be able to make amends enough to balance what I did." He reached across the table and took her hand. His fingers were warm, firm, the ring pressed against her skin. "Then we are well matched," he said softly. "Two cowards trying very hard to be brave." She gave a watery laugh. The door opened abruptly. A footman appeared, slightly out of breath. "Your Grace," he said. "Forgive the interruption. A message has arrived. The Parkers' carriage turned back. The road is impassable. Mrs. McKinnon sends her apologies as well. The other ladies will not be able to join you today." Liam did not release Amelia's hand. "Thank you, Thomas," he said. "Ensure that all their parties are safe at home. Send men if needed to help clear the road." "Yes, Your Grace." The footman bowed and withdrew, closing the door gently. Silence fell again. "So," Liam said, his thumb brushing lightly against her knuckles before he realized he was doing it and stilled. "It seems our committee is reduced to 2. She did not pull her hand away. 2 may accomplish much, she said, if they are honest. "Can we be?" he asked quietly. She looked at him, her eyes still wet but clear. "Yes," she said. "We can try. It is all we have left." He nodded once, then slowly let go of her hand, as if testing his own resolve. "Then let us begin with the school," he said, "and see what follows." They spent the rest of the afternoon over the papers, speaking of roofs and salaries and the price of coal. Yet beneath every practical word ran a quieter current of something newly opened between them. Not yet forgiveness, not yet promise, but the fragile, trembling hope that their story might not be finished after all, and that the lives they had broken apart could yet be turned in time towards something better than either of them had dared to imagine. Spring reached the highlands that year with a kind of stubborn joy. Snow melted from the hills, the roads turned from mud to firm earth, and the small parish house at the edge of the village, once draughty and forgotten, buzzed with the sounds of hammers and children's laughter. Amelia stood in the doorway of the old building, watching 2 boys attempt to carry a bench that was clearly too heavy for them. "Careful," she called. "If you drop it, you'll crush your toes and I shall have to explain to your mother why you limp." The boys straightened, grinning. "We are strong enough, Mrs. Lennox," one protested. "I do not doubt it," she said, "but strength is not an excuse for foolishness. Put it down and drag it, not lift it." "There, that is wiser." They obeyed, still smiling. Behind them, a young woman, Maggie, the new assistant teacher, arranged slates on a shelf. Her cheeks were pink with excitement. "Do you think they will come, Ma'am?" Maggie asked quietly. "The parents, I mean. Some said they would, but others, they did not wish to promise." "They will come," Amelia said. "Curiosity alone will bring half the village, and the promise that their children might read more than a psalm will bring the rest." Maggie nodded, trying to hide her nerves. Outside, wheels crunched on the newly laid gravel. Voices approached. Amelia stepped out into the sunlight. Liam was there, on horseback, speaking with the vicar. He dismounted with easy grace, handing the reins to a groom. His gaze went first to the building, then to the gathering villagers. Finally it found her. "Mrs. Lennox," he said, "you have filled the place." "With the help of your purse," she replied, "and the vicar's sermons. He has spoken of the school every Sunday for a month. No one dares stay away." The vicar smiled. "When a duke wishes something done, it is my duty to call it the will of Providence," he said. "And in this case, I do not think I have lied." Children milled about, their faces scrubbed, their clothes mended as best their mothers could manage. Men and women clustered in small knots, half proud, half uncertain. A school meant hope, but it also meant change. Liam moved among them, speaking to each, listening more than he spoke. Amelia watched him with the now familiar mixture of admiration and ache. Since that rainy afternoon at Strathmore Hall, they had seen each other often, at meetings, at services, in the village street. Their conversations had grown easier, their laughter more frequent. Still, neither had spoken the words that hung just beyond reach. Neither had said what they truly wanted. "Your Grace," Mrs. Parker called, hurrying up in a gown that tried a little too hard to be modest and fine at once. "We are honored by your presence. It will mean so much to the people." "It means a great deal to me," Liam said. "Thank you for helping to organize today." She beamed. "If there is anything more I can do for your projects, you have only to ask." "I am well supplied with capable helpers," he said, glancing briefly at Amelia. "But I will remember your offer." A small platform had been set up near the door of the school. The vicar climbed onto it with care and raised his hands. "Friends," he called, "if you will gather there, His Grace wishes to say a few words before we open these doors. The murmur settled. People shifted, drawing closer. Amelia found herself near the front, with Maggie at her side. Liam stepped onto the platform, the breeze lifting a strand of his hair. He looked over the crowd, his expression serious, but not severe. "When I left this part of the country years ago," he began, "I was a man with nothing but a trade and a great deal of anger. Some of you remember me that way. Some of you knew my parents, or watched me carry coals and sweep forge floors. You saw me as I was then. I did not imagine I would stand before you one day as your landlord, your duke." A ripple of uneasy laughter moved through the crowd. "I do not blame you if it feels strange," he said. "It feels strange to me. Titles change quickly. Hearts change more slowly." He paused, letting the words settle. "When the late Earl of Strathmore left his lands and name to me," he continued, "many people asked whether I deserved such a gift, whether a man of my birth and history should hold such power. I have asked myself the same question many times. I still do. I cannot answer it to everyone's satisfaction, but I can say this. I will not treat what I have been given as a prize to flaunt. I will treat it as a trust to be used." Heads nodded, cautious but hopeful. "This little building," he said, turning slightly toward the schoolhouse, "is not grand. It will never impress anyone in London, but it may change a child's life. It may give a boy or girl the chance to read a contract before they sign away their wages, or to write a letter when a loved one goes far from home. It may teach them that their minds are worth exercising, no matter what their hands must do." He looked out at the children. "I was given a second chance I never expected," he said. "I intend to spend the rest of my life passing that chance along, in whatever small ways I can." Amelia felt something tighten in her chest. His voice, quiet and steady, carried something warmer than duty. "And so we open this school," he said, "not as charity thrown from a high window, but as a promise that we see you, that we honor your labor enough to wish your children more. I hope in years to come you will hold me to that promise." The vicar murmured an amen. A few others echoed it. Liam stepped down from the platform and lifted the simple wooden latch on the school door. The hinges creaked gently. Inside, Maggie waited with her slates and trembling smile. Children surged forward, then hesitated, looking to their parents. Mothers nudged sons, fathers cleared throats and nodded. Slowly, the young ones began to file inside, wide-eyed. Amelia watched them go, a soft warmth spreading through her. For the first time in many years, she felt clearly that something in her life had been set right, even if only in a corner. "You have done a good thing," she said, as Liam came to stand beside her. "We have done a good thing," he corrected. "Maggie, the vicar, I only signed the papers." "You signed more than that," she replied. "You signed your name beneath theirs. That matters." The crowd began to break into smaller groups. Some lingered, eager to speak with the Duke. Others drifted away, returning to their work with new stories to tell. Mrs. Fraser appeared at Amelia's elbow. "You looked very solemn," her cousin whispered. "People will think you disapprove." "I do not disapprove," Amelia said. "I am moved." Mrs. Fraser eyed her. "Then let it show a little, child," she said more gently than her words. "It suits you." She patted Amelia's arm and moved off to greet an old acquaintance. A little later, when the first excitement had passed and the children were settled inside with Maggie, Liam found Amelia again near a low stone wall that overlooked the fields. "You look tired," he said softly. "Have we overworked you with our worthy enterprises?" "On the contrary," she said. "For the first time in years I feel my days are doing more than merely passing." "I am glad," he said. They stood side by side, the wind tugging at their clothes. "People are talking," she said without looking at him. "People always are," he replied. "About what in particular?" "You," she said. "Some say you will soon announce your engagement. They speculate about candidates. Names are being weighed like loaves at market." "Are they?" he asked mildly. "And what price do they set on me?" "High," she said. "You are a duke, after all." He smiled faintly. "I was a blacksmith first. That is a more demanding standard." She turned to face him fully. "Liam," she said quietly, "whether you wed a great lady or a modest one, she will be fortunate. You are a better man now than when I knew you, and you were a good man then." His eyes searched hers. "You speak as if you have already accepted that I must choose someone else," he said. "What else can I do?" she asked. You have forgiven me enough to let me stand in your house and help with your work. That is more than I ever expected. I will not ask for more." "What if I wish to offer more?" he said softly. Her breath caught. "Do not tease me, Liam," she whispered. "If you mean to be kind some other way. I have learned to live with what I lost, but I am not as strong as I look." His expression grew very serious. "I have never teased about this," he said, "not even in my own mind. That is why I have been silent. I did not trust myself to distinguish between desire and wisdom." "And now?" she asked. "And now," he said, "I know one thing clearly. There will be a gathering soon, larger than this. People from all the surrounding estates will attend. They expect me to speak. They expect me to make some announcement. They are waiting like hounds for a scented trail." He paused. "I intend to give them one." Her heart pounded. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, "that I am tired of living in half-truths, tired of pretending that the past is locked behind us when it still shapes every step. I mean to speak plainly, to them, and to you." She shook her head slightly. "You cannot," she said. "It will cause a scandal. They will say you have lost your judgment, that you are ruled by sentiment." "They already say I am unfit because I was not born to velvet sheets," he replied. "If I spend my life twisting myself into shapes to please them, I will never stand straight. And I have straightened my back with too much effort to bend it now." She stared at him, torn between hope and fear. "What are you going to do?" she whispered. "You will see," he said, "if you are there." "I do not know if I have the courage," she said. He reached out and took her hand, just for a moment, shielded by the angle of the wall. "Then borrow mine," he said quietly. "I have enough for us both today." The announcement of the Strathmore summer gathering spread quickly. It was to be a grand occasion. Music on the lawn, tables laden with food, lanterns strung between trees. Tenants and gentry alike would be invited, though at different hours. "Of course you must go," Mrs. Fraser said when the invitation arrived. "Everyone of any consequence will attend. Wear the cream gown, it makes you look softer." "I do not feel soft," Amelia murmured. "I feel as though my bones might shatter." "Then hold them together," her cousin replied briskly. "You have faced worse." On the afternoon of the gathering, Strathmore Hall looked almost festive. Colourful ribbons fluttered from poles, and the air was filled with the sound of fiddles and laughter. Children ran across the grass, chasing one another between adult skirts and polished boots. Amelia arrived in a hired carriage, her cream gown as simple and elegant as she could manage. Mary had woven a small spray of wildflowers into her hair. "You look like yourself," the maid had said approvingly, "not like someone else's idea." She stepped down onto the gravel, her heart racing. Mrs. Fraser slid out behind her, already craning her neck to see who was present. "Do not stare at him," her cousin whispered. "You will draw attention." "I have no intention of," Amelia began, then stopped, because Liam was already there at the edge of the lawn, speaking with an elderly tenant. He looked up as if he had felt her arrive. Their eyes met. She saw his shoulders ease slightly, as though some private tension had loosened. He did not come to her at once. He finished his conversation, spoke briefly to Fenwick, then moved slowly through the crowd, greeting others with equal courtesy. "He is working his way toward you," Mrs. Fraser murmured. "Breathe, child." By the time he reached her, the sun was lower, turning the sky gently golden. "Mrs. Lennox," he said, "I am glad you could come. You invited the entire county," she replied. "It would have been rude to refuse." "Some refused," he said. "You did not. I am grateful. Your Grace," Mrs. Fraser said with a graceful curtsy. "You have done wonders with the school. The village has not stopped talking of it." "Then I must tread carefully, or they will begin to expect wonders from me every week," he said lightly. Mrs. Fraser smiled. "I will leave you to your guests," she said, and drifted away with practiced tact. A quartet of musicians began a gentle tune. People moved toward the open space on the lawn where dancing had been suggested. Liam offered Amelia his arm. "Will you walk with me?" he asked. "In front of all these people?" she replied, dry-mouthed. "In front of all these people," he said, "unless you prefer to hide behind the lemonade table." She hesitated, then placed her hand on his sleeve. They walked along the edge of the lawn, past groups of talking guests, past children rolling hoops and a dog weaving between legs. "Do you remember the village fair?" he asked softly. The year they hung lanterns in the square and you refused to dance with me because my boots were muddy. I remember, she said. You glared at me for an hour. I was proud, he answered, and embarrassed, and very much in love. She looked down. I loved you too, she said. I never stopped, even when I tried. He drew a breath, as if steadying himself. Amelia, he said, in a few minutes, I'm going to stand up there. He nodded toward the small platform near the steps of the house. And speak. They're expecting an announcement about land, perhaps about a new tenant arrangement. Some are hoping I will declare myself betrothed. They are all prepared to weigh my words and judge my choices. Yes, she whispered. I ask one thing of you, he said. Do not judge yourself before I have spoken. Do not decide what is possible before I have laid my own heart bare. I am afraid, she admitted. So am I, he said. But I am more afraid of remaining silent. He led her to a spot near the front of the gathering, then gently let go of her arm. Stay here, he said, if you can. She nodded, fingers twisting in the fabric of her skirt. Fenwick approached and murmured something to Liam. The musicians let the tune fade. Conversation softened and stopped. The murmur of expectation rose. Liam stepped onto the platform. The crowd turned toward him. My friends, he said, his voice carrying easily across the lawn, you have been patient with me these past months, as I have learned what it means to be your duke. You have watched me make mistakes and attempt to correct them. You have watched me try new things, a school, changes in rents, gatherings such as this. Some of you have wondered what I will do next. Some of you have told me what I ought to do next. A ripple of amusement moved through the listeners. I know there are rumors, he continued, about land, about tenants, about my household, about my marriage prospects. He smiled faintly, especially about those. A few bolder guests laughed. You are entitled to your curiosity, he said. My life touches yours, whether I wish it or not. The person who stands beside me will, in some measure, stand above you. You have the right to hope that I choose wisely. He paused, scanning the faces before him. His gaze brushed over Amelia's. She felt it like a touch. When I was young, he said, I thought the only wise choice was the one that pleased others. I bent myself into shapes to fit their expectations. Later I decided wisdom meant pleasing only myself. I hardened my heart. I told myself I needed no one. Both paths led me astray. The lawn was very quiet now. I have learned something since, he said more softly. Wisdom is not found in pride or in self-erasure. It is found in truth. And the truth is that I cannot lead you well if I am ruled by fear. Fear of gossip, fear of disapproval, fear of my own past. He took a breath. There is a woman among you, he said, whom many of you know. Some of you know her as Amelia Fraser, from a family with more name than fortune. Some of you know her as Mrs. Lennox, a careful widow who manages her affairs with grace. Some of you know her perhaps only through whispered stories. The whisper he invoked seemed to ripple through the crowd. Heads turned. Amelia felt heat rush to her face. I know her as more than that, Liam said. I knew her as a girl who shared her bread with a boy who had none, as a young wife who chose a hard path and then, in fear and confusion, walked away from it, as a woman who has since faced her own mistakes with more courage than most men I have met. He looked directly at her now. She could not look away. I have been told, he said, still addressing the crowd, that to align myself with someone whose story includes failure is to weaken my position, that a duke needs a wife of spotless reputation and unblemished history, that I owe it to the title to maintain a certain image. He let the words hang, then shook his head. I do not agree, he said quietly. I owe it to this title, and to all of you, to be honest, to choose not the safest path, but the truest. We are none of us spotless. We have all made decisions we regret. What matters is what we do with those regrets, whether we hide from them or let them teach us to love more wisely. He stepped down from the platform. Amelia, he said, not loudly, but in a voice that carried all the same. The crowd parted as he walked toward her. She stood rooted to the spot, her heart pounding so hard she thought she might be ill. He stopped directly before her. The lawn around them might as well have been empty. Liam, she whispered. Your Grace, someone hissed nearby, but he did not seem to hear. You once told me, he said softly, that who I was might never be enough to give you what you needed. The world has since given me more than either of us imagined. A title, wealth, influence. I have learned that none of it fills the space you left. Tears blurred her vision. Do not say that, she said. Do not make me the measure of your life. I forfeited that right. I am not measuring my worth by you, he replied. I am measuring my happiness, and I find that it stands where you stand. The murmur around them swelled and dropped like a wave. The gossip will be vicious, she whispered. They will say you are a fool. Let them, he said. I have been called worse. I care more for what you say. She shook her head, trembling. What can I say that would be worthy of this? He took her hands in his, right there in front of everyone. His grip was steady, his eyes clear. Say whether you can forgive me, he said, not only for the anger I carried, but for the silence, for letting you stand alone in shame while I hid behind my new name. You owed me no defense, she said. I earned the shame. We both did, he answered. We both hurt what we had. I will not let you bear all the blame any longer. Her tears spilled over. Yes, she whispered. I forgive you. With all my heart, he exhaled, as if he had been holding that breath for years. Then say whether you can love me, he said, his voice low. Not as the boy from the forge, not as the duke with his duties, but as the man who stands before you, with all his scars and all his flaws. She laughed once through her tears. I never stopped, she said. I tried. I told myself I had moved on. But every night, when the house was quiet and I dared to look at my heart, you were there. I love you, Liam, more truly now than I did then, because I know what it costs. His face softened in a way she had not seen since they were very young. Then say whether you will marry me, he said, knowing that our story will not be an easy one, knowing that some doors may close and others may open, knowing that we will always carry the memory of what we did wrong and the proof that we learned from it. The lawn was utterly silent. She looked at him, at the ring on his hand, at the hope in his eyes that he tried and failed to hide. She thought of the cottage, the ledger books, the school, the children, of his stubborn kindness and her hard-won humility. Yes, she said, her voice firm despite the tears. Yes, I will marry you. Not for your title, not for your land. For you, for the man I loved, and the man you have become. A collective breath seemed to be taken and released by the gathered crowd. Some faces showed shock, others disapproval, others quiet approval. The vicar looked as though he might cry. Liam smiled then. Not the careful public smile she had seen so often, but a wide, unguarded one that transformed his whole face. Thank you, he murmured. With a tenderness that ignored all watching eyes, he lifted her hands to his lips and kissed them both. There was a moment of frozen stillness. Then Mrs. Fraser began to clap, one sharp, decisive sound that broke the spell. Others joined, some hesitantly, some with enthusiasm. A cheer rose from the tenants at the back, louder and fuller than the polite applause of the gentry. Love conquers pride, someone whispered, or makes fools of us all, another replied. Better a fool in love than a coward in comfort, a third murmured, and did not sound displeased. The musicians, confused but eager, struck up a lively tune. Children laughed again, the tension dissolving into the air like mist under sun. Liam leaned close enough that only Amelia could hear. They will talk for years, he said. Let them, she answered. We have wasted enough years listening. He chuckled softly. Marry me soon, he said, before I have time to think better of it. You will not, she replied, lifting her chin. You are too stubborn. So are you, he said. God help us. Amen, she whispered, smiling through her tears. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of arrangements. Some invitations were accepted with enthusiasm, others refused with tight-lipped excuses. Amelia moved through it all with a calm she had never known as a girl. When someone dared to offer a veiled remark about her past, she met it with a level gaze and a simple answer. Yes, she would say, I made a selfish choice. I hurt a good man. I have regretted it every day since. I am grateful beyond words that I have been given the chance to make a different choice now. There was very little one could say in reply to that. On the day of their wedding, the church near Strathmore was filled, not only with the well-dressed and well-born, but with farmers in their best coats, children in clean but patched clothes, Mrs. Campbell with her new bonnet, Maggie with ink on her fingers. Amelia walked up the aisle on Mrs. Fraser's arm. Her gown was simple cream with lace that had belonged to her mother. Her hands shook, but her steps were steady. At the front, Liam waited, his expression a mixture of solemnity and joy that tightened her throat. When the vicar asked who gave this woman, Mrs. Fraser squeezed Amelia's arm. "She gives herself," her cousin said clearly, "as is her right." Liam's eyes shone as Amelia came to stand beside him. "Are you afraid?" he whispered. "Just once, before the vows began." "Yes," she whispered back. "And very happy." "Good," he said. "So am I." They spoke the words slowly, carefully, as if they were hammering nails into a new foundation. To love, to honor, to cherish, forsaking all others, in hardship and in ease, in poverty and in richness. Not words the vicar always used, but ones Liam had asked him to. When he said "I do," his voice did not tremble. When she said it, hers did, but only a little. Afterward, on the steps of the church, with rice in her hair and children screaming with delight around them, Amelia looked out over the faces. Some were disapproving still, some uncertain. Many were smiling. Liam took her hand and raised it. A small, private gesture turned suddenly public. "You once thought," he murmured, "that you had ruined your life." "I did," she said, "more than once." "And now?" he asked. She looked at him, at the ring on her finger that matched the one on his, at the schoolhouse visible in the distance, at the home that waited for them on the hill. "Now I know that life is more stubborn than my mistakes," she said softly, "that it keeps offering chances to choose better, and that love is not something we throw away once and lose forever. It waits. It returns, if we are brave enough to open the door when it knocks again." He smiled and bent his head, kissing her in front of everyone with a reverence that made her heart swell. The cheer that rose this time needed no prompting. Years later, people would still whisper about the Duchess who had once left her first husband because he was poor, and later married him when he had become a duke. Some told the story as a warning, others as a romance. But in the quiet of the evenings at Strathmore, in the schoolyard when children ran to show her their letters, in the fields where Liam walked with tenants and listened more than he spoke, Amelia knew a different version. She knew that the story was not about a woman who chased wealth and was punished, nor about a man who proved everyone wrong. It was about two stubborn, flawed people who had let pride rule them once and chosen, at last, to bow only to love. And every morning when she woke to the sound of Liam's breathing beside her and the distant voices of children on the hill, she whispered a simple prayer of thanks, that she had been foolish, that she had fallen, but that she had also been given the grace to rise again, hand in hand with the man she had once lost and now would never lose again. Thank you so much for listening to this story, all the way to the end. We hope it moved you as much as it moved us while telling it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment telling us where you're listening from and what you liked the most. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like as a show of support. That really motivates us to keep creating and sharing more stories full of emotion and life lessons. And before we go, we want to remind you that an exciting and heartwarming story recommendation will appear on the final screen. If you'd like to enjoy it, just click on the video. Thank you once again for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.